Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to episode number 5. I think it's number 5. This one is going to be all about the insulation. It's a massive topic. I probably get more questions about this than anything else. So yeah, should be pretty interesting. So first up, I copped a board to the back of the head today in the surf, and I'm feeling pretty strange. I keep forgetting things and doing weird things. I'm also having a beer, which probably isn't helping. But yeah, feeling super weird. Probably not a great time to film and edit an episode. So insulation is a massive topic. There's so many different opinions out there. Everyone has their own opinion on it. Everyone thinks they're an expert. I'm definitely not an expert, but I'm just gonna talk about what I've done in this fan and what I've done before and how it's worked for me. So don't take anything I say as like gospel or anything. Not an expert. This is what's worked for me, and I have done a lot of research into it over the years, so I think I have a pretty good idea of what I'm doing now. I'm insulating this van mainly for warmer climates. So insulating a van for a warm climate versus a cold climate are two completely different things. There's heaps of videos out there about insulating your van really thoroughly for cold climates like in the US and in Europe, and a lot of Australians tend to apply that to their vans over here, when in reality insulating a van for a warmer climate is completely different, really. A lot of people tend to think that by adding a bunch of insulation, they're going to stop all the heat coming in, the van's going to stay nice and cool, and you're going to be sweet. When in reality, it's almost impossible to fully insulate such a small space like this against heat coming in. Even a double brick house is going to warm up over a day and become hot at night. So if you think you can realistically insulate a van against 40-degree outside temperatures with this much insulation, then you're kidding yourself. You're never going to be able to effectively stop heat from coming into your van. You might be able to slow it down, but at the end of the day, if you park your van in the sun all day, it's going to get hot regardless. And if you over-insulate your van and put a massive amount of insulation, it's just going to become an oven and you're going to trap that heat for longer. So in a warmer climate, it's actually almost beneficial to have less insulation, which sounds a little bit crazy, but it makes sense. Heat can come in faster, but it can also be expelled much quicker as well. Adding adequate ventilation is obviously a massive part of that, so having really good windows, roof vents and all that sort of thing is going to help get that hot air out. But just keep in mind that the more you insulate your van, the more heat is going to be retained, which is awesome in cold climates. But in warmer climates, even with the best ventilation, your van is just going to become an oven and it's not going to be very comfortable at all. Don't stress about the insulation too much. It's not the end of the world. People tend to think it's super important, and yes, maybe in sub-zero climates it is, but if you're living in Australia or a warmer climate country, it's really not the end of the world. It's not the most important part of the build. Don't overcomplicate it. It's not the end of the world, so just chill out. It's all gonna be good. So obviously I am gonna be occasionally visiting, cooler climates in this van. I'll probably go down south in Australia. I will have some cold nights, so I did wanna add some insulation to help retain some of the heat. And what I'm using is XPS, which is Extruded Polystyrene, not expanded polystyrene, which is this shit, the stuff you get in packaging. This stuff will just disintegrate and fall apart in your walls. It's super cheap. You can get it from Bunnings and stuff. Just don't use it in your van. It's just gonna fall apart in your walls. It soaks up moisture, which creates mold. It's just not a good product to use. This stuff is super hard. It's durable. It doesn't disintegrate or fall apart or anything like that. It's also moisture resistant, so it's not going to attract moisture and you're not going to get mold in your walls. So I think this is probably my favorite product to use for insulation. There are heaps of other options out there. There's fiberglass, there's earth wool. I tend to stay away from those just because a lot of them do soak up moisture. Also, fiberglass is horrible to work with. It gets in your lungs, it's itchy and gross. Definitely avoid using fiberglass if you can. Don't be tempted just to stuff all your voids in the van with any old insulation you can find because you think it's going to help. Compacting insulation doesn't do anything. It actually worsens the insulation properties. So if you're squeezing insulation into all these little crevices, it's not going to help anything. It's going to be more annoying and it's going to create more problems than just leaving it without any insulation. Spray foam's another popular one. I've heard that it can create some pretty toxic fumes as it off gases, so I've just avoided that one completely. I have used a little bit of spray foam in this van. I'll talk about that later. The other good thing about XPS is it's quite cost effective. I think I spent around $250 to insulate the entire van. I've got two different thicknesses. I got 25mm and this thinner stuff, the 18mm stuff. This is actually pretty much an offcut for when they trim down these sheets from bigger sheets. So you can pick this up really cheap if you ask if they have any offcuts of thin sheets available. Another massive part of insulation is the vapor barrier. Everyone seems to freak out and think, oh my God, I need a vapor barrier. What's a vapor barrier? Do I need a vapor barrier? Oh my God, vapor barrier. Calm down about your vapor barriers, all right? Just chill out. So the main idea of a vapor barrier is to seal off your insulation from the rest of the van. And that's mainly to stop moisture getting in, which in theory creates mold, can create rust and dampness behind the walls, which gets trapped there. So that's the idea. But in reality, it's very hard to effectively seal every tiny air gap in your entire van. A lot of people think, oh yeah, I've sealed off everything inside, yep, all good, my van, it has a vapor barrier, it's sweet, all good to go. But there are hundreds of holes all the way around your van that you probably don't even know about. Underneath, there's cable entry points that go into the walls. There's water drain outlets at the bottom of all the walls in pretty much any van. Most people don't even seal them, so moisture and vapor can come up in there and settle behind your walls from that. It's not impossible to install a vapor barrier, I'm just saying it's really difficult for your average sort of home builder to do it effectively. Every single screw hole you put in, every cable you run, every vent you install, you need to seal off completely. You can't do it half-heartedly, you need to do it 100%. If you halfway do it, all that's gonna do is create a trap for the moisture behind the walls and make it actually harder to dry out. So I don't use a vapor barrier, and the idea of that is that if moisture does get behind the walls, then it has a way to escape and to dry out, and it shouldn't cause any problems. The other thing is this stuff is moisture resistant, it's not going to mold. I've rust proofed everything, there's no bare metal, nothing's going to rust. Shouldn't really be any problems. I guess the main concern with vapor barriers is stopping condensation from getting behind your walls. But if you have proper ventilation, like an overhead fan, that should suck out most of your condensation anyway, and it shouldn't really be a problem, especially in warmer climates. Yes, in cooler climates it can be an issue. So yeah, I'm not saying don't use a vapor barrier, I'm just saying they're really difficult to install properly and you have to do it right, otherwise it can actually be worse than not even bothering to install one at all. Another question I get a lot around this stage of the build is sound deadening. Do you apply sound deadening behind your insulation? Yes, I think it's a really good idea. It can be pretty expensive to apply sound deadener to an entire van of this size. It's pretty massive. So I didn't opt for sound deadening in this one. Another reason is these things get so noisy anyway. By the time they're full of all your belongings, there's pots and pans going everywhere, there's cutlery flying about, you're driving around, shit's going everywhere. So they're super noisy in the back anyway. What I'm gonna do on this one is just sound deaden the front really, really well, and then build a really solid divider from the front to the back and sound deaden that really well. And the idea there is to just completely block off this back area from the driving cab, and that should hopefully reduce most of the noise. But yeah, if you have the money and you want to sound deaden the whole van, go for it 100%. Obviously not going to do any harm, so yeah, just give it a crack, I reckon. Alright, that's enough of me just yapping on. This is how I actually installed all the insulation and a few problems I found along the way. Alright, I'm going to start the insulation. I'm going to start at this panel and just work my way around. So this glue isn't exactly working out how I planned it. If I have to clamp every single panel in place, it's gonna take years. And if I leave it like this, it's sort of like, it might like rattle. So this is how I ended up gluing all the insulation on. It wasn't really working out exactly how I planned, but got there in the end. So it's super solid. There's no movement or squeaking. It's like rock hard. But it did take ages because this glue has no like tack strength. So it has to be clamped in place. So with the insulation, I've also got a bunch of this 18mm stuff, which I'm just gonna bond that in big sheets between all the studs. So it'll go 25mm, an air gap, and then the 18mm insulation. So it should be pretty well insulated actually. So the last thing I need to do before I put my outer layer of insulation and then my walls in is run all the wiring, which I'm not looking forward to. Such a crappy process. But pretty much you want to try and run that all under the walls just so you don't have exposed wires everywhere. It just sucks because you pretty much have to plan out where every single switch is going, where every light's going, where every power point is going. So up here, for example, this is my bedroom. I know that I'm gonna have some downlights here, LED downlights. Probably have some like up lights here, shooting up onto the roof. I'm gonna have a couple of power outlets down here near the bed, one on each side. There are a few things that I'm not gonna be able to get wired today, like my 240 volt switches. I haven't got my cabling for that yet, and I don't really know where I want them yet. So I can do that. You can do a few things later, but I want to try and get as much done now just so it's nice and neat and hidden behind the walls. But yeah, not looking forward to it. The other thing I'm going to do is just fill in a few of these voids with some spray foam. I want to try and limit the amount of spray foam I use just because it can be a little bit toxic when it off gases apparently. So hopefully you guys found that one useful. Insulation, as I said, massive topic. People freak out about it. My only advice is just to do your research, look into it, but don't freak out too much about it. It's not the end of the world. The next episode is going to be all about the walls. I'm super happy with them. It's actually a really low cost and budget solution to create nice looking, unique walls. So that's going to be the next episode. If you found this one useful at all, please subscribe. I don't know where the button is, somewhere. And like it, send me a comment, that'd be sweet as. It's Sunday today. I don't know why I'm saying that. But yeah, I'm gonna go have a lay down for a bit. My head's feeling pretty funny. Probably shouldn't have any more beer either. One's probably enough. But yeah, I'll see you guys later. Got a headache. Jesus Christ.